Africa Investor Today is proudly brought to you in association with Petro SA and Afrexim Bank. Hello and welcome to Africa Investor Today, where we bring you the latest in African business news. We start today's bulletin with a look at politics and economy. African leaders will step up calls for an end to Western sanctions against Zimbabwe and will urge South Africa to plead Zimbabwe's cause within the group of 20 industrial and emerging nations, officials have said. The countries of the Southern African Development Community will also press Zimbabwe's President Robert Mugabe and its Prime Minister Morgan Tsvangirai to end their long dispute over a power-sharing pact that was holding up vital foreign aid. President Jacob Zuma of South Africa is being watched for signs he will take a tougher line toward Mr. Mugabe than did his predecessor, Thabo Mbeki. Mr. Mugabe has been the target of sanctions by the European Union and the United States, including a travel ban based on accusations of rights abuses and vote rigging. In other news, South Sudan's ruling party has signed an accord with the leading opposition party on Saturday, forming an alliance ahead of a general election next April. The deal was witnessed by Salva Kiir, the president of South Sudan and chairperson of the South's ruling Sudan People's Liberation Movement, and Sadiq al-Mahdi, a former prime minister and the head of the northern-based Umma party. Political parties in Sudan are building alliances ahead of the national elections to challenge the ruling National Congress Party led by President Omar al-Bashir. Tanzanian President Jakaya Kikwete on Sunday hailed the good relationship among the East African Community partner states, appealing to the defense forces of the 5 member states to maintain the spirit for the sake of peace, security and stability in the region. Kikwete made the remarks while delivering a speech at the opening ceremony of the first ever field training exercise to be conducted by the EAC armed forces from Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda and Burundi in the Monduli district in the northeastern Tanzanian region of Arusha. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we bring you news on banking and finance.
Redefining energy means redefining life. At the Petroleum, Oil and Gas Corporation of South Africa, our commitment to greater innovation and greener fuels has made us pioneers in the field of gas-to-liquids technology. It has also earned us worldwide recognition for producing the cleanest fuels through environmentally friendly processes. That's how we've become the international leader in diesel technology. Through pure innovation, pure energy, pure brilliance.
In banking and finance news, in South Africa, the government has welcomed the relaxation of credit requirements by certain banks, but hopes that they will not revert to their former strategies. It does not plan, as its international counterparts do, to downscale its incentive packages for the local economy anytime soon. This was the message from Minister of Finance Pravin Gordhan in Johannesburg on Sunday, shortly after he returned from London, where he attended a G20 summit over the weekend. He said a perception existed that South Africa had excessively curbed its credit lines after the collapse of global financial systems, but the relaxation was not being irresponsibly managed. He referred to the decision by certain banks to grant 100% mortgage loans in certain markets once more. The delegates to the summit agreed on further steps to strengthen their respective countries' financial systems. Gordhan emphasized that local financial institutions had no hopes of returning to their old ways as soon as their credit lines returned to normal. In other news from Kenya, Islamic banks have grown to account for nearly 1% of gross assets in the Kenyan banking sector since they first opened their doors early last year. The Islamic finance industry is seeking to grow outside its main centers in the Gulf Arab region and Southeast Asia to tap into Muslim minorities in Western and African countries. Its banks cater for customers who want to follow Islamic rules on avoiding direct payment or earning of interest, which are viewed as usury under Islamic law. The recent fund injected into the financial system by the Central Bank of Nigeria to bail out the 5 troubled banks would help to restore confidence in the banking system and to bring growth in the nation's economy, a researcher from Standard Chartered Bank has said. The regional head of economic research Africa at Standard Chartered Bank Group has stated that the banking bailout, rather than having negative impact on the nation's economy, would actually stimulate growth. On to some companies and markets news now, but first we'll take a short break. Afrexim Bank is Africa's leading trade finance bank, an organization dedicated to promoting African trade through credit, risk-bearing and advisory services. We pride ourselves on having local presence throughout the continent and are committed to extending our award-winning trade and project finance programs to unlock private sector development continent-wide. We invite you to become a part of our vision for a strong Africa in a changing world. If you trade within Africa, contact us to support you. On to some news in companies and markets. Africa's third biggest construction group, WBHO, has posted a 27% rise in full-year headline earnings per share and said on Monday it plans to continue seeking expansion opportunities in the continent and in the United Arab Emirates. Wilson Bailey Homes Ofcon, which is constructing 3 stadiums for the 2010 World Cup, said full-year headline EPS rose to 1,610.8 cents per share, above its own forecast of a 15 to 25% rise. Headline EPS is the key profit measure for South African companies and excludes non-trading, capital and certain extraordinary items. Construction continues to be the best performing sector in South Africa, bolstered by a government infrastructure and spending program and preparations for next year's World Cup. In Zimbabwe, ZB Financial Holdings Limited has posted an $8 million loss for the half-year ended June 30th, weighed down by depressed performance on both the financial and capital markets. The group said the level of liquidity on the market was low, failing to support full economic levels, further impacting negatively on the group. Group CEO Mr. Elisha Mushayakara said the group had seen marked improvement in revenue outturn and the group was hoping for a profitable last half of the year. Bahrain Telecommunications, or Batelco, is looking for acquisition opportunities in North Africa and the Middle East of up to $2 billion. Should Batelco be successful in acquiring such a company, a combination of debt and equity will be funding the acquisition. This is according to the chief executive, Peter Kaliaropoulos. He said the company was looking in North Africa and the Middle East, but had no particular targets yet. Batelco is looking to grow abroad to offset increasing competition in its home market and had submitted a bid for a stake in Morocco's Meditel Telecoms firm, which Portugal Telecom and Spain's Telefonica sold to Moroccan investors last week. With that, we're going to take a short break. We bring you infrastructure news next.
Africa Investor, the leading African investment magazine, is essential reading for investors in Africa, filled with the very latest in Pan-African investment and finance news. In addition, log on to africa-investor.com to find out more about our exciting capital market, infrastructure and tourism events, and our long-standing investable Africa Investor 100 Index series, which tracks over $600 billion of African equities. Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.
In infrastructure news, South African Communications Minister Siphiwe Nyanda may ask mobile phone companies to cut unusually high interconnect fees in an effort to lower communication costs in the country, Business Day has reported. Nyanda held talks with the companies about the costs they charge mobile phone users to connect calls to rival networks. The Johannesburg-based newspaper cited him as saying in an interview, "No agreement has been reached as yet." Kenya Airways on Friday flew into Gaborone, Botswana, in what is being viewed as a major challenge to rival South African Airways. The long-awaited flight is expected to hugely eat into SAA Nairobi-Johannesburg route as passengers flying to Botswana opt for the shorter and cheaper route. Kenya Airways is now flying thrice a week to Sir Sirita Khama International Airport, making a round trip from Nairobi through Gaborone, then flying back to Nairobi with a brief stopover at Harare. It becomes the only other airline besides SAA to land in the sleepy airport. Air Botswana, which used to fly to Nairobi in the 90s, has smaller aircraft specializing in the South African routes. And in our last story today, the government and Eskom have agreed to assist Angola develop its large hydroelectric power capacity. SA Energy Minister Dipio Peters and her Angolan counterpart Vera Lopez signed an agreement that provides for South Africa to assist Angola to develop its power supply. And with that, we close this bulletin of Africa Investor Today. For these and other stories, remember to log on to africa-investor.co.za. Join us again tomorrow for more updates. Africa Investor Today is proudly brought to you in association with Petro SA and Afrexim Bank.